really should have said that earlier.
I'm gonna just exit out my choice.
Huh? I agree.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do get more racing cards. I just don't think it matters. I just don't see how it could possibly matter. You know what I mean? What is the more it changes that. But if you want more racing cards, you can have that.
If you know where the spicy cards are, just in case you please. I understand this. It's just like it has other stuff.
There's two cards that are small round. I can just put them in the cup, but they are newer. I actually replace one of them. How are you on that top? The very top level. It says top level.
What's that? Thank you.
That's right. Oh, yeah. That could be.
Okay.
Every time people say that, I'm like, what do we win? We don't know anything. Oh, are you graduating you on
Yeah, not that stuff. I thought I did my makeup.
Huh?
I'm dressed up here
They're totally dressed today, but they just refused yesterday to do anything.
So,
Are you judging us?
basically.
I'm on the old man's exemption.
Yeah.
I was joking yesterday when they were like, we'll find you for missing debates. I'm like, I should just pull out a few hundreds and miss everyone.
I think I'd do it.
I won't be and then,
Oh, and did you get the stuff Yep, yep. This one. Yeah, these are actually quite good. I forgot that was, yeah, that's, yeah. Exactly, it's like.
Dockstader left by the time you were in Northwestern, wasn't
Yeah, I mean, he was certainly
Yeah,
not
and, yeah,
just an employee or student there,
Because
that I
that'll-
remember.
I haven't seen him in so long. I talked to him.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he's, yeah, the union thing.
Yeah, I don't know if this is my 15 something.
Do we have all check this?
No. No, I thought it was a call, not
It's both.
K-A-L-L call.
Oh, Aaron.
We're on, yeah.
I thought it was call.
That was so confusing.
I think they're close. I think they're close.
Call.
I thought that was What else isn't true, JP?
Yeah, I think that's how, whoever was typing our parents had it. It was their own. Yeah, call. I think this is Bossy was typing, they just call, and took the beat. So then call it.
Doesn't seem like there's any better spot. That might be a little bit up in your business.
We can hang on.
Oh, okay, well, we can put it like that.
Yeah, we can just start right here. Does that work for you?
Yeah. You can maybe move this behind you. Yo.
It's weird.
Did anybody not get the email? Is anyone not ready?
I'll pull up the one I see.
Tell me when you are. Anyone not ready? Claim the United States federal judiciary should provide Chevron deference on wholly clean power plant. Contention 1 is global law. U.S. practice shapes global administrative law. Court ruling setting key signal. Carbon 14 U.S. a central work through course law. A case law district court promoting international arbitration. The court's ruling on the most important in the world. U.S. law directs the global consensus on arbitration. Strong Chevron and regulatory defense spills over globally. The model trickles up. Superintendent 5. The Court of Administrative Laws focusing on government regulatory requirements. The scope has been expanded to include agencies' discretion functions to go beyond who the goal, responsibility, and accountability to the judiciary is about. The copy doors do not substitute the judgment that of the agency. The law can be created from the bottom up through horizontal region for mutual recognition. U.S. model provides example, especially for bilateral investment treaties that are influenced and shaped by U.S. law. Verse 9 investment treaties contain assurances that investment will flow across the next binding arbitration to going arbitral. The arbitral investment case will declaration U.S. exerted considerable leadership in this regime as for investor protecting NAFTA encourage investors around the world to seek arbitration to help move forward the growing movement to make the U.S. the home of the leading investors that led U.S. to be highly influential with other actions to complement the regime. Globalizing Chevron prevents the collapse of bits, cat sellers into other dramatic rising investment abroad and increase in bits and disputes arbitration control on delegate issues in the past 20 years takes settled 10 times as many package beyond the rising pillback is evident after determined distance exit system altogether and precisely what it guarantees fuel conservative arbitration made of government choice deference is warranted, including interpretation of interpretation of regulations, fundamental Chevron holdings that the agency could fill any gap left in the statute AP and arbitration of civil Chevron, mental survey deference of host interpretation, tailored arbitration, directly constructing to like expertise deference is one of the court may not substitute its judgment for the regulatory entity statement, but by the tribunal's rules not extended second guessing a host of potential for interference to the conservative because standards are emphasized tribunals run any risk it is incumbent to make changes to modification to rules. Tribunals have a responsibility to interpret in light of the purpose of its protection or different from content of the protections of internal law. The models must both uphold climate restrictions and utilize Chevron to sustain system legitimacy. Marlene 14 review of environmental fines regards more than a no who granting deference to a state of non-diluted expertise but either takes greater legitimacy real or perceived in regulating environmental law. They this can have beneficial effects in enhancing the procedure by each decisions are considered driving and granting deference and legitimizing collective role they play in the department of environmental finances, likely to become more prevalent considered by common phase 2 problem proceeding and ever based on regulation regarding energy states, or increasingly on regarding perceived interference in tribunals to environmental decision respond by altering participation or leading to maintain legitimacy. Tribunals must respond. Opposition is accelerating will fragment the investment stream into blocks that disintegrate the global economic order. Black shock and 9, the faculty communities unchecked investment will divide into complex subsystems to not dissolve the stability of the international economic order will suffer alongside disintegrating relation prior to being investment will depend on state action difficult to secure advantage to the relationship building, facilitation, liberalization, ability to encourage investment, strength of the law, governance, have a strong symbolic value. Developing countries argue that it's gone to a sort of attack regulation related to the environment. Importing nations will seriously reconsider their commitment to backlash should become the Libya, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. Ecuador announced after become heated. There was no issue with dissatisfaction will remain limited. The futures by no means certain. Arbitration remains consent based on will terminate Latin America, maybe for the capital of part of movement terror, so beginning to fit into the fabric of arbitration itself. But maybe more becoming crisis and confidence. Global orders, fragile fracture, causing great power, nuclear override. In 16, the world is heading into writing case with danger to take combat economic change leads to regulatory system unable to go this versus dissatisfaction, polarization, timing opportunity, aggravates grievances, populace and force leader to take measures. This may lead to withdrawal from an integrated world disintegration, have severe implications for global notice as a factor from hyper war, non-state actions, excellent, mistrust, political powers, the greater wars, change, regional system, coalesce, and hegemon, displacing unified global economic order, fragility and disintegration, bringing the perfect zone conflicts, have global invention, fatal favors, amount opposing has collapse of rules-based economic norms causes lash out and extinction, dimension knocking nine, hegemonic world means bending, the rule of law, removing legal procedure, will concerning result in strong states unchecked, facing economic child support, nation would be all no major powers would be aggressively compete for control of the economy and resources to boost militarization, arms wars, and escalation of global violence society because of the same faith design is a rejection of its destroyed Latin American stability markets in 14, arbitration of crucial links because foreign investment materially affects social realities, particularly in Latin America, a hotspot lack of failure caused by regionalization, decreased investment in the region with severe impact marked by alarming poverty by isolating Latin America, policy making no number of the law which would negatively impact development, reduce certain position would have zero big questions on the region of proper answers needed to have to establish a framework that gives reference to host states draws in Russia, L-15, Russia and giving the region adversely impacts the USA, Russian arms activity more viable and dangerous to neighbor, the building of Russian military activity because opportunity for Russia to operate in the region of the US during hostile allies present, present Russia with option to act in Latin America to force the US to the verdict, including basing nuclear assets extinction, barely 13 more involving the US and Russia could lead to extinction, bring shift strategies, raise the risk of crisis, will go out of control, and into nuclear exchange, will war present as an answer because Russia remain ready to launch full sending of attack could be caused contention to with Chevron. The court is increasingly exempting major questions from Chevron. Lack of principle doctrine will destroy agency deference. HLR 17. Chevron is staple of administrative law until reasoning scheme of liberty. Yes, Chevron's rating is in jeopardy over 2 terms. Decisions take a shift away from deference in the major cases. There appears to be consensus diminishing Chevron's stature. The court's jurisprudence indicate in biases in the mundane major case and mundane case Chevron. Applying major case, the court adopted an overview. The two tracks system was a significant cause that obscures the landscape, fostering uncertainty about when courts will invoke rules. The doctrines offered to justice choose the method of elevation. In given case, the Zalento system is problematic to improve the court should select stable principle applied to all cases or particularly coherent rational as well as the measure to distinguish cases with important cases on the rise. The court should write the plan sets the rest of the run Chevron. The CPP is a key test of major question. Dr. Reichert in 16. The CPP with the more so the case in terms of the future of administrative law. It does not separate the kills of statutory interpretation agency deference. The code of electricity sector is incredibly important because role in writing entry. CPP has implication for the future of administrative law. Decision deference doubling down on the impunity, disabling heavily on the impunity. Added to the court debates for visiting this doctrine, particularly intricate question about the balance of the doctrine. This decision may have implication on administrative law through the CPP litigation. This may affect the future of deference. Dr. Chevron understands the present doctrine. The kind of statutory interpretation. Climate commitment policy may play a huge role. It can't be distinguished. Failing to uphold CPP reverses Chevron and crushes deference. For August 16th, the court struck down playing US people left in and phasing connection shapes. Both should be contained to the balance of powers, including the Fed is permitted to do anything there. Chevron, the CPP is one phase of a multifaceted effort to grant agency for period up their authority to restrict the executive on the court to flip Chevron and Senate where laws to be read against the agency. The court to which is power reign towards the judiciary is far from feeling court with the attack and the CPP control more than by this one side of regulation and prevalence of place circle limits on agencies. Clear Chevron efforts to Trump agencies by the reverse stringent broadband neutrality rules lead to Chevron had them central and net neutrality. Never doctrine led to courts aggressively second guessing agencies on the Obama the FCC declared broadband style communication allows wrong net neutrality. Courts of health is under Chevron. The courts conservative also shown skepticism on the breaking Chevron may be easier to deregulate for regulation for regulatory groups like Chevron because there's been that America for the back Chevron advanced conservative goals and broadband. Chevron led Bush to do regulatory judicial where we have to put a legislature regulating. Same applies to the breaking DV Chevron allowed Oregon to deregulate. Obama's burdensome FCC regulation destroy effective internet competition better without restriction. Pay in 15. The internet has become a powerful force for freedom inside of the FCC's unprecedented government control for 20 years. So done free and open internet having Chevron let it grow free from regulation results free for themselves. The FCC advantage will reclassify private telecommunication radical voucher for market policy. The service so well consequences had higher prices, lower speed, less deployment, less innovation, fewer options for the consumer. The order forces light touch to this and it isn't at all. People's all investment innovation networks don't have to be built more difficult. The FCC makes it visibility less likely to derive local connecting FCC welcomes litigation from individual claims that are reasonable and surprising to rolling class action fees providers. The people go out every dollar's find fees of lowest come from projects deploy faster rapid because of direct competitors out the present SBA and independently measurables but burden problem is the internet is a hardware that show problem for the internet which freedom works notified didn't enable it's been the commercial internet that led to innovation creativity engineering was the order until the camp's rights remain evidence anecdotes hypothesis and high area US over-regulation is global class most internet traffic flows through the US Muslim 15 FCC's move to impose regulation will have toxic effects on investment and innovation represents not the answer. US represents 70% of global information technology come away with universities ready the campus to this point crashing result in the university had marvelous success on the internet traffic the world flows through the US what is wrong the FCC things has to reduce it to a whole utility net neutrality restrictions go out to internet-based medical services high bandwidth low latency requires innovation and priority routing backroom 10 evolution of internet services contribute to the tremendous growth in high-speed lines grew traffic triple growth of access contributed to growth in bandwidth intensive secondary expected result in enormous increase in demand Korea is the risk of ejection capacity constraint significantly harm high with high bandwidth, high time sensitive service, new medical service result in significant medical and impossible under any trial because medical services require high bandwidth and low latency cannot be reliably offered without priority internet right emergent with restriction inhibit innovative services otherwise developed. High bandwidth medical innovation prevents extinction of a disease response. Against the 15th, there was a significant chance substantially infectious disease will occur in the next 20 years from either natural causes of bioterrorism, agents, or far more infectious spread through the air, escalate our community, even if the system works very well, would fail to contain more infectious disease delays, resulting in global disaster. It's critically important to have good habit technology that has not been available by people need computer mouse for which intervention with that they could understand the movement of population, but internet capacity needs to be important. We should have high bandwidth internet capacity that digital tools can help with the reporting and coordinated bioattacks, cause retaliation, nuclear war, quick containment, ski conlane 3, the number of casualties due to double in the attack may be the most important favorable and determining the nation because of the range of death from no serious call for massive retaliation. The count was from a CVP double the incident that the which makes the public's nuclear retaliation would be more than just a possibility whatever problems have been made. Rollback is likely. Chevron allows CVP to probably reinterpret the Clean Air Act. Childers in 17 to rollback regulation could be a simple agreement in the CA by leverage and regulation is best tool to undermine or limited combat regulation conservative based for Chevron. Chevron does best for calling back rights. For example, not because the CVP could prove it might be able to kill the CVP entirely. Chevron to disfavor as administrative assembles the result in change of administrators of regulation to be considered EPA or pollution or recent court decision never that deference internet based medical innovation central to precision medicine. Weston 16 to work internet must have it. A survive connecting people's possibilities, health care, including imaging, diagnostic data analysis, treatment wearables, and real sensors for provide never before seen telemedicine diagnosis of treatment, medical function require high reliability because they can see intervals down. One of the virtues is remote access to geographic figures monitoring devices allow for real-time management. Precision medicine takes advantage of relevant experience incorporating detailed information helping the most relevant treatments to individual. Precision medicine solves APR crisis is coming. Mana 15. Precision medicine is often associated with decline healthy and encompasses on the board antibacterial resistance and a decreasing population need for effort to promote the appropriate use such stewardship and critical capital. Precision medicine solves the crisis of precision changing the way ages are development of the world is on the verge of a crisis. Multiple global health organization have been sounding the alarm. CDC identified urgent threat. The key R's are accurate, simple point of care diagnosis for bacterial intervention. Extinction block into 2K. We need to solve the antibiotic resistant crisis. Nature may hold the key where the crisis of the transfers resistance attack. We are going to melt the human species like a wax museum on fire. Have a friend not make it so we desperately need neutrality for resistant bacteria. Trump's FCC will still enter the principles of net neutrality with light touch regulation opposed to excessive regulation. Their terms are hyperbolic, sloppy reporting. Down to 70K favors light touch regulation, likely to be consistent, professional, predictable to judge from the media. It is the end of the world. The badly complaining news report pays the views on net neutrality consistently supported the wall pay. Objective to unprecedented intervention by the White House will transforming broadband into utility rights. That's getting the story so wrong. Hey, much to revisit reclassification of this title to not net neutrality principle themselves. What's going on? Sloppy reporting persuasive everything like an analytical rigor part of the campaign whose goal have been re-regulation, triple alarm surrender considered. I see what's the second little to do with uncontroversial net neutrality principle, everything to do with regulation. I will fall into the trap over the lines that are source of the current agenda. Cross-X.
Alright, so Chevron Advantage says Obama's burdensome FCC regulations destroy the effective internet. What's your answer to get rid of those regulations? Counterpunch.
That Chevron is key to that.
Why? Okay, we have fiated that those regulations do not exist. Why is Chevron key?
Why is Chevron key? Because in order to...
Those agencies need deference in order to enforce that.
No, they have a statute that gives them the latitude to enforce that. Why do they need deference?
All the reasons your distinguished counterclaim doesn't make sense.
It's not a distinguished counterclaim. Okay, that's fine.
Because
All right.
it so strikes down the CPP, which
This
wouldn't result in increased
global
deference.
laws advantage. Your draws in Russia card. The Ellis evidence says that Russia is already engaged with pro-Russian states. They're helping FARC in Colombia. What do you think substantiates that there's uniqueness that Russia's not already involved?
Our argument is that they are involved, but that there's not conflict to breaking out, which would cause
What is
drawing
the-
because it escalates tensions.
Okay, so there have been bit conflicts for like the last 2 decades, and those haven't caused an escalation. What's
Our argument is from 2014 says it's coming soon.
It's
There haven't
coming
been
soon?
hot conflicts due
Alright,
to Bitcoin.
which
Our
country
evidence
in
says that they
Latin
are
America?
inevitable.
Which country in Latin America convinces the United States to attack Russia?
It's not the art.
But that's not the arg. Then, if there, how does the conflict precipitate then?
Unintentional drawing.
Because ergo, a country has to draw the United States in. So like,
No, the argument is it draws in Russia, then Russia.
well, no,
lashes
we've
out
already
and
established that
causes
Russia's already there. You just made the uniqueness argument that Russia has been there for a while.
Yes, but if Latin America's stability is destroyed, Latin America is a vital place for Russian power projection and for economic influence, which means that if Latin America goes unstable, Russia would lash
You're
out.
just kind of like these 2 countries are in the same place. Ergo, there will be a war. That makes 0 sense.
I'm considering it an
Like-
internal, I think that's laughable.
All right. This strong step for Chevron deference regulatory spills up. Which countries do you think you have a normative piece of evidence says that they will incorporate U.S. deference law?
Oh, they already do incorporate U.S. deference law because of the ICSID tribunals that all of them have agreed to be regulated and bound by. Our argument is that we are key to those tribunals and international arbitral case law more broadly. Because
Trade exists outside of bilateral investment
Not a
treaties
trade.
which interconnects countries.
Not about trade, and trade proves our argument because trade creates haves and have-nots, which proves the necessity of
A bilateral
fiat.
investment treaty just gives the investor protection in case the country does something they don't like.
Okay,
Keep
that
it
is a
different.
rather simplistic understanding of what a bilateral investment treaty is.
It's protection for investors. Okay.
Which is necessary for investment linkages and
Let's
to
talk about
prevent
this.
the
Your
deglobalization
internal
and-
into extinction from collapse of the rules-based order. It says the dimension card says removing legal procedural constraints on the use of force. So not investment, but on the use of force. How do you think you spill over to the use of force?
Because the IDE evidence says that you collapse through that in the status quo.
Economic
there's a collapsing
regulations,
economic order
laws
that leads
of
to
war are
fraction.
different things.
What?
The law of war, like our law of armed conflict is completely different than economic regulations
Agreed,
within the
but
bits.
our internal link to that is it collapses the rules-based economic order, which
Six
is the
off
internal.
Chevron global law.
6, you said, you
Yeah, 6 Chevron global. Let me grab some water while y'all.
Alright, is everybody good?
No, no. No, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
I don't think JP wants
I had
to,
a-
so.
My poker face.
Yeah.
No need to
Thank
even
you.
try. Figure out what I'm
Everybody good?
First off, top quality must implement the law Mary Munster 16 established to institute as a law by enactment that excludes the judiciary. Webster 96 and the plan formulated outside the judiciary vote negative exposed background by doubling the number of apps, increasing the literature base to include judicial discussion which traces off from the misintroduction. Next off, top quality increase, they must be a net one. Large 2005 increase requires the baseline to be calculated over a period immediately preceding the change CPP is being implemented right now. State doesn't prevent regulatory action. That means they're not top order 2016. A state does not stop agency efforts. The EPA released a draft and separate document model rules for states seeking to meet their targets. Representatives suggest the EPA might have the right to continue its work to stay after the stay on the CPP's air pollution rule in 2011. The agency continued to work on the rule. The EPA's actions are affected by the court staying. Claims that the EPA must halt work would be persuasive. The court did not grant an injunction in Negan versus Holder. The halt of some proportion of the proceeding, whereas an injunction directs conduct to say holds much less power for negative for predictable limits, allowing for to modify restrictions to codify the status quo, massively increase the number of cases that otherwise negative ground because uniqueness is impossible. Next up is the counterclaim. The United States Federal Commission reverse Obama era broadband net brutality restrictions provide necessary resources to relevant agencies to prevent internet regulation. We reserve the right to clarify for juicy add-ons conditional counterclaims that could you would never logically vote for a counterclaim worse than the status quo. Next up is the counterclaim. The United States Federal Commission provide Chevron deference to federal agencies in order to make broadband regulations, establish environmental regulations that does not involve restricting greenhouse gas emissions. The United States Federal Commission not uphold the Clean Power Plan. The United States Federal Commission to apply domestic and administrative law to actions by global regulatory regimes, including bilateral investment treaties. The United States Federal Commission prescribe a differential standard of review for bilateral investment treaties, clarifying that adjustments do not replace the expertise of a regulatory host entity. Next up is the LNG decide the CPP jacks up domestic demand for gas generation without a coal consumption will remain flat. The forces gas overseas are being 160 scenario in which the rule is repealed, speaking to the significant effects of the plan's absence could have on U.S. energy mix. Under the reference case, there is an increase in the market shares of the gas. The CPP is a major factor in the future production, forcing the retirement of the older plants and making room for more efficient resources. In the absence of the CPP, coal consumption remains flat. If coal is flat, you don't have room for anything else. Semensky pointed out without CPP, you'd get less gas. Semensky added that zeros out exports domestic demand trades off with international consumption levy and 12. The boosting consumption increase prices that reduces exports no matter the use implemented carbon price claim. Energy standard or regulation exports will decline. The prices would rise between $7 and $8, resulting in the vanishing of exports. Would not be surprised to see above $10 after exports would not materialize. LNG exports are key to prevent Russian invasionism, EU cohesion, Middle East stability, U.S. alliances and warming. Greatest 126 in the rule. The U.S. rules the energy power opportunities. The U.S. faces a resurgent Russia fracturing Europe and its unstable middle growth of LNG traders are challenging Russia. Exports have greater liquidity and secure and diversified Europe supplies. U.S. LNG contain Moscow's use of gas as a foreign policy tool against court. China and ensure U.S. allied leadership continues gas service. Bridge to renewables, reducing emissions. Baltics will cost us war. Status and 1 in the Baltic Russia is undertaking safe rattling in the interest of promoting of NATO with nuclear capable bomber Russian nuclear forces being swiftly up under hyper warfare makes the greatest of crisis. The much more dangerous Russia is focusing on nuclear forces to undertake military measures at the conventional level, highly threatening reliance on nuclear signaling, increase the risk of mass escalation that can lead to escalation through the nuclear threshold. Next off is the Orientalism K global law. It includes a framing of non-liberal societies as unstable threats that justifies the elimination of non-liberal life. Morton 2005 identified fusion of warlords, criminal and terrorists has become a central concern at the center is the long-term vision that building legitimate state institutions. This policy approach represents a pathological view of the condition of colonial states by the breakdown from the north to the western statehood, supported by the vision of becoming anarchy. The threat is characterized as the resurgence of non-Western power generating intellectual civilizational fault lines, whereby within these representations there is a signaling function contained within metaphors of darkness, decay, and shadows. A dominant view of post-colonial states is imbued with the imperial representation of the past based on a discursive economy that renews the focus on the post-colonial world as a set of disorder. The common response is to rejuvenate imperium through governance structures and new humanitarian empire, and then furthers of Western values. The alternative is to break down Orientalist binaries as tried for breaking those down to the cause of unending violence between 2007 war and genocide or horror problems, not ignoring them. Racism manifests as genocide, but that does not enable us as a concept defines the power of a group to itself, revealing the certainty that affinity with them will be harmful. The exclusionary measures led to war, genocide, wars fostered by the post-colonial institutions. Violence is integral to the racism divisions created by colonialism guarantee escalation of violence of the colonizer and the colonized. Racial differentiation cemented through the colonial relationship are integral to the aggregation of violence during and after colonialism. Within the framework of violence continues to invest in the post-colonial existence. Chevron Vantage Court ruling makes it impossible for Trump to roll back CP Harvey in 11 making killing the plane would not be that simple. The question that remains is what if the rules upheld at time to agree the CP would be a complex time consuming procedure the same if the administration attempted to change the rule after it's been upheld. EPA finalized the rule is now a law that would have to go through a new notice and comment rulemaking process. It would need to rational reason for upholding it, and that would be litigated. There are still plenty of checks and balances to any action Trump might take action against the CP. I don't think panic is called for. Trump can't roll back the CP after the plan of court ruling. Upholding it means a new endangerment. It means endangerment finding hold. Freeman and 12.8 the CP if the rules are upheld by the court. What can Trump do to stop it? EP would have to make an argument for why they're reconsidering it. Any change would get challenged. Supreme Court case the FCC versus Fox said that if an agency changes might have to defend the new rule, the burden on the agency is tougher for changes. Market changes by no impact by term Mueller intense aerosol do not settle pathogens. And never been spread near nose level. 90% microorganisms die during aerosolization. Effectiveness can be reduced further by sunlight, small humidity, temperature changes, dispersion, destroy organisms. Storage is difficult. Have a limited lifetime. Weapons can take weeks to have full effect. They can be countered with defensive measures. Delivering microbes requires a delivery system, enormous sophistication that even dispersal could be easily disrupted by unfavorable meteorological conditions. Chevron deference enables prudence. EPA to dismantle warming regulation challenge and 17th Spears mission to roll back Obama. EPA on climate could be simple interpretive license. Could be the best. It could be best for climate regulations. You oppose it with Chevron deference. Could ensure favors administrative the decision that gives Chevron its name with the result of changing the administration as the Reagan teams have to reconsider the EPA applied its air pollution program. Judicial evaluation of agencies under administrative law will determine the damage Trump does to the climate potential. On 17 Trump back to dismantle environmental policies. Watch the courtroom. Obama positioned himself as a global leader in the fight against climate change. That is now in apparel. Trump, as head of the EPA, is proved environmental groups are gearing up to fight anti-action climate. The courts will decide the extent to which Obama's legacy is maintained or world access. Director of Policy and Research and Climate Advisor. The courts are the area of last resort and groups that have supported the Obama administration agenda. The courts are going to be very busy evaluating the limits of the American administrative law. Says the expert on international climate policy. Extinction, Victoria Meyer, 15, warming, intensification, increased reversible impacts of species face extinction, marine organisms will face lower ocean levels, intensification, coral reefs, and polar ecosystem may be vulnerable. Biodiversity reduction will challenge the sustained provision of fisheries. Climate change is projected to negatively impact production 4 degrees Celsius combined with increasing food demand and pose risk to food globally. High temperature, humidity, increase the risk from heat stress, storms, extreme precipitation, flooding, air pollution, droughts, sea level rise, and storm surges. Climate change slows down economic growth. Climate change increases the risk of violence. Again, the conflict by amplifying the drivers of those conflicts, such as poverty and economic shocks. Net neutrality is net link turned by Chevron. That's Cleveland. In 17, the Senate demonstrates the filibuster strength is stronger now. This DC Circuit Court is likely to reuphold FCC's open internet order that will be upheld again in the Supreme Court over the past 2 years. Supreme Court decision involving Chevron have increased limits on Chevron reference and are expected to continue limiting regulatory deference. The FCC, the new Republican majority, enjoyed debating means to dismantle and overturn FCC open internet order via regulatory authorities. Judicial deference to agencies causing net neutrality rollback. And also in 16, the FCC landmark net neutrality rules rules will be a target for the GOP government. The rule can be reversed according to tech policy now. Analysts in simplest ways, the administrative FCC could reverse the current open internet order when passed by agency. The court granted the FCC deference in pushing the open internet order, so a new chair could issue rulemaking to reverse that and could wind up in court. Their disease impact argument is about global administration of vaccines, which is not happening right now. Distribution is more likely concerned. No impact is easiest iron. Sandberg is on Bill 14.1. Risk is influence. A low probability model suggests that a flu that kills 1/3 of the population could occur once in every 10,000 years. If the disease is highly lethal, it kills the host tissue quickly. Despite selection pressure, creates an inverse relationship between infectivity and lethality. Antibiotic resistance is MRSA, which they can control the interlinked extinction for. Global law advantage. Bits destroy it. Johnson and Trump look at their bilateral simultaneous fragmentation with this may have negative implications for economic welfare, trade law, complex network bilateral agreements, items. Transaction costs conceptually incoherence arise when treaties impose conflicting obligations. Two treaties may explicitly assign different definitions. Incoherence is problematic. The transaction costs are inherently increased legitimacy of the international trade regime may suffer if it is seemingly in identical trade laws. Concepts of conflicting meanings by increasing transaction costs fundamental legitimacy of the international investment regime. No spillover, and even if they do, they model Chevron on the status quo. There's no reason to plan. They would model the nuance of the affirmative rules of Newmeyer and 14 conclusive evidence is still missing the signing of the bits, developing rules of witness to litigation. Yet increasingly agree the stricter FDI related provisions, diffusion of the bilateral investment treaties associated with the comprehensive competitive pressure among developing host country diffusion of investment agreements with investment provisions is driven by competition of developing countries for FDI. The impact is incoherent. If states need FDI for survival, they would never withdraw. There's no impact to global backlash. Pinehart and Whitehunt in the Hosted and 16 backlashes to limit states have now withdrawn due to the difficulty of the existing overlapping ISDS, which allows states to use unilateral withdrawal to recalibrate rather than reject international commitment. Withdrawal have now resulted in no reduction in foreign investors' access to projections, no access of Russia impacted, no Latin American escalation. Provision 13, the U.S. will have strong incentives to avoid the use of military power. The high cost of the campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq will create strong domestic opposition to the U.S. and such intervention large cuts in defense of Washington will be much less likely to engage in military action in Latin America. Failed states impact. There's no internal link. They're done by evidence about great power fighting over international laws that are relevant to bilateral investment treaties. No impact of failed states. Since Mercer in 14, the threat posed by fragile states turned out to be less urgent and more diffuse than suggests. The top 26, very few boast geostrategic significance even in the threat of terrorism isn't highly correlated with the weaker states. Specified danger whenever unique to weak states. Effective terrorists tend to be middle class and strong. Saudi Arabia, not impoverished into failed states. Terrorist groups in the weak states can shift the base of operations. They can move to Europe. Organized crime finds homes in functioning states.
You can progress next?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to start on the Johnston app that you read that you've tagged as bilateral, as the bits destroy global law. Right after your card ends, it says
You're gonna
that
have to read
despite the
that in your next
structure,
speech.
there
You
was a
don't get to read a card
countervailing
in
tendency
cross-ex.
towards convergence.
You don't
in
get to read a
investment.
card in cross-ex, you can read that in the next speech.
We'll have a debate about that.
Okay.
But there's a countervailing tendency towards convergent and investment law incoherence
Ask
occurs
the
far less
question.
than expected. Why is this a takeout to you?
So the Johnson evidence says that bilateralism itself entails fragmentation. The reason the countries backlash to the existing international trade regime is because they're not compliant with WTO norms, which bilateral investment treaties, because they preferentially favor one state over another, necessarily do. So if your argument is about backlash, then it obviously does. Yeah.
CPP has a stay on it in the status quo. What's the link?
Roseva's evidence says the stay is not a legal barrier. You have to identify a legal barrier to the status quo.
Okay, what qualifies as a legal barrier?
An injunction.
And if we win that the CPP has an injunction?
It's not an injunction, it's a stay.
If we won that it was.
You wouldn't, because it's not. Our evidence says
yes.
that
The second counterpoint? How do you fiat tribunals? How does applying domestic administrative law to actions by global regulatory regimes solve the fact that the U.S. does not control the arbitration?
The Stewart evidence that you read, yes, the U.S. does not control global arbitration. The Stewart evidence that you read in the 1AC says that the mechanism of the U.S. influencing global law is by updating international charter. The counterplan would update international charter.
What have you read on this? Sorry?
Oh yeah, we'll read this one in the cross-ex, is that okay? No, we'll read up on this in the block, but I'm agreeing with you that the 1AC ad itself that you've read says that the U.S. needs to update the charter, which is what the counterplan does. It's also the second plank of the counterplan resolves this as well. The
what's
first
the
plank about
status?
environmental regulations, it's conditional, I said that.
Okay, can you kick individual planks?
Status quo is always an option, that's what conditionality is.
So can
Yes.
you kick individual planks? Okay, that's 9 different things. 9 factorial is over several million.
That's not how you judge.
different
You don't judge
numbers.
conditionality by the number, you judge it by the type of counterplan. We read 2 advantage counterplans to your F. I think you should be able to debate that. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Your EV on the Chevron bad term says that everything will come down to being decided in the courts. What evidence do you have that that court decision will be decided on Chevron deference?
I don't think you understand the terms. Potenza evidence says that judicial declarations will make it so that agencies don't have the ability to roll back environmental regs. The AF makes it so we defer to agencies so they would be able to roll back environmental regs.
Which piece of evidence do you think says that they won't be able to roll back environmental regs? Or makes a normative claim about upholding the CEP and that
What?
the effect
You
of
made the
upholding
spillover argument that the first of all, the Trump rollback argument at the bottom of the 1AC proves that the administration is anti-regulation. Second, you made the argument that Chevron spills over, which is our link argument.
What have you read that spills over to these cases?
It's about the EPA. Your AF is about Chevron deference to the EPA.
increase net gas. The net neutrality counterplan, the bits counterplan. Okay.
Can you say the off case order again?
Yes. T Congress. T increase. The net neutrality advantage counterplan. The bits counterplan. Or sorry, I totally messed that up. T Congress. T increase. Natural gas. The net neutrality counterplan. Bits. K. All right.
You're good.
All right. Everyone good? Harvey votes affirm me, won't enforce Congress sends all insert a reality of here. The plan does not preclude rollback. Plan text says I'll implement court determines statute term. Permissible executive government implement Chevron president makes litigation more likely to fail, which internally turns our offense because the defers to new Trump agency reserve pretends evidence that say Chevron anywhere spillover. Clips are incredibly near prefer, particularly we don't stop all judicial evaluation of agency action, which is the only way that they actually say spillover. Clip their arguments no impact to warm heart of 50 IPCs are widely LMC. Sure, based on the projects without any reference to technical adaptation, all series are only some negative impacts. Ignore adaptation attributed back to warm ED. Is no basis for weather threats or malnutrition. Familiar is unrelated. Species lost a little foundation experience. I'm gonna mark that cardiac experience. Yes, impact of bacterial evidence and some retaliation. Even if it's unsuccessful, cause extinction, concede disease, cause extinction, don't need to reinvent it. Will also drop. They also drop TBR, cause extinction, don't reinvent it. What they say, they say Chevron Kita dismiss TBR work too by answer that out of order. Sorry. They say test code protects net neutrality now, but group D, net neutrality terms, we internally turn their arguments because net neutrality is good, which our evidence agrees with. The only thing bad is regulation. Test code doesn't protect now because Obama era regulations create unpredictability and chill investment because high bandwidth and low latency means that they can't operate. Second card is not about Chevron at all, which means that one era goes 2 inches if they blow it up it doesn't answer their vaccines evidence, or vaccine argument doesn't make sense because our evidence isn't about distribution, but rather medical innovation writ large, which is necessary, which you consider internally to no word out because of fast transmission. Per best models, our impact is also not about MRSA. It's about different aspect of antibiotic resistant bacteria. The bits advantage Johnson evidence was rewriting cross-legs. Yes, I'm going to insert it here because arbitration, since their evidence says arbitration precedent solves unity. Just caught better cards. Emory, nice. In the next try, no diffusion. A number of states have already pulled out catalyzing part of movement toward separately away from arbitration. Balancing certain concerns through Chevron is key. Yes, yes, withdraw. The survival clause means that it's in fact for 15 years. It's also not inevitable because they're backlashing now. The Pine evidence makes no sense because our arguments not have a complete system withdraw. Developing country fracture splitters, the global order, original blocks which are conflict prone. You can see the impact hegemonical for run hostile blocks, which causes arms race in the last chapter. Next evidence is about Washington attacking Latin America. Obviously, it doesn't assume misconduct between U.S. and Russia over Latin America. Yes, we control internally to failed states. Our evidence is about dissatisfaction and populism, which can compel terrorism. It's not just failed states. Impact combo weakness, poverty spurs global conflict. Virginia invites major power intervention, cause terrorism, civil war, which escalates the threat. It's high now the top Britain evidence topicality. We meet the plan opposed to CP, which interprets the CA to restriction mission establishments to make firm industrial require Congress, boards, affairs, and fifty establishments. Some Mexico without any actual legislative words establishments to make firm policies and course of action is aspirations to the course of action of Iowa government. That's best education. The box on CP, core Obama climate policy act. Cloud force sitting down blue tons of process strategy. Trump's a game changer. Happenings critically to move around in massive opposition climate policy. In other words, can't solve because rollback top shit. They create core B actually be Congress not climate B concrete central not debate no limits exposure few advocates states and restriction key warrants check mechanism ensures government is really good. It's gonna have theory grounds on subject condition. Bad temperature to argument response just was subject office T increase we mean CPP never had force law that's content picture state return the party so this that's called the state return of now legal force around the decision this so never had any force law we mean that increase get to plan up plus CPP climate rights increases reserve modifies restriction those supposed to be finding nowhere 87 restrictions that a force law court put restriction not a guideline all the reasons the other interpret good are also applied to this in that case states that broad Chevron precedent allows the EPA wide latitude necessary to kill the CPP entirely it's used to reinterpret the CA that's child they expanded the scope of the link because their evidence says any carbon price turns out but in that case specifically Chevron's only way to be in the engagement of finding Walton 222 Trump is expected to undo the policies that
restrict fossil fuels in the power. The first focus on CPP and Trump prospects CPP question remain the court. Will the DPA must regulate carbon competition on endangerment finding Trump could challenge it in the court. The EPA could have an eviction challenge judicial deference and concept of courts. Agency widely way to make a regulation. One of the key points is the CPP. That's offense because endangerment finding requires EPA regulation even if the CPP is struck down without Chevron. That's been like 3 one order is essentially EPA must reopen this endangerment and even if you were to repeal the CPP will leave the endangerment finding groups and state dollars would take one of the court and force the EPA to reduce it will not fulfill pledges about the energy industry. The advantage contemplate Purdue, both Purdue, they play in all any possible combination of planes cross-apply both of those to the other contemplate doesn't solve deference because you could be done solve Chevron because the agencies need wide latitude in order to enforce the regulations, which they wide latitude in order to enforce it. It doesn't solve deference because straight down replicates MQ2 received as removing significant rule for consideration cause lower court misapplication their key because that's where most of administrative rulemaking happens and need clear consistent standards to operate. CPP is key, which they have considered perceived as shaping future administrative law figure to oppose sure jackets regulators. That's right for goes to the next counterplay. Doesn't solve bits because the counterplay makes literally negative sense. U.S. is party to international arbitration courts, but does not directly set the review standard at those tribunals. It's one of 170 different countries. Many of those disputes don't even include the U.S. as a party. How in the world can the counterplay possibly establish a standard for all of those? No solvency advocates of voter exclusivity kills fairness, voter for education and class deference. Stops Filipino environmental destruction. In 16, the Philippines regulated reversing damaging mind will be severely considered by investment maturities. Mind is been bound polluting. What if 50% will keep out diversity? Here's our impact regulation will certainly tie to cases turn to roll back investment protection and architecture of people that made regulating mining impossible. It's crucial that Philippines start to revise those extinction. Thompson and what the Filipinos say. We're 7th of mega diversity countries. They're holding 2/3 of biological research. The Philippines is home to the world's most important plant species for medicinal values. Global negative externalities in the Philippines. Lots of thousands of species are global disaster. International ecosystem can break down. The flick of when large system, really large system, reorganize the critical states. Minor event may start changing direction that can lead to catastrophe. Investor-led bids cause open pit mining in Indonesia rainforest of Vietnam said 75% of cases were bought by mailbox company, no substance making use of bids, creating extensive protection of investors. The threat of the claims limit specifically Indonesia under the bids claim or forced to withdraw legislation restrict open pit mining for rainforest extinction. Density and 14 mine could see billion tons dug up from the area of global significance. The hard window contains the world's most important forest, which acts as the lungs of the earth. One of the few areas where the logical conservation can still be implemented. The hard, those 10% more has been licensed to the companies. Okay. Framework, we get to where the plan self-class factors, predictable, look, key to prep and notice education, permutation, will permanent plan, now we use exclusive parts of the alternative. The thesis of our advantage that current institutionalism are stacked against countries for Western elites. It has to be flipped to first state regulators to allow them to channel FDI where most appropriate. Poverty and state weakness are real things that demand attention. There was substantial harm. Ignore this, focus on criticism without direct challenge to arbitration only locks in status quo, aggravated, and state post, social project uncovered but neglected. President development beyond these problems arise dollars, offer no program and engagement. Here's the answer. We only claim to critique as long as one steps reward exists in the problems to which development and social critiques become insufficient. You can't replace something with not doing engagement, with nothing engagement, with projects that are necessary because the critiques arrive at a time when the apparatus of development is being strict disengagement, the confusion of by peers. It is far more than parents of criticism, sustained process giving the norms high. They will giving up the yield, giving up would yield too much. Util first, all life has value and not all suffering is the same. And life is a prerequisite to it. Not all development is bad. They romanticize non-Western approaches and pure critique does nothing is better. To force institutions to be accountable peers. 2K using discourse to political rights as opposed to development offers go. Politics was self-organized to the poor, which most responsible institutions off the hook. Projections is not rest in the necessity of the program. Is resistance rather than shared information will remain as a whistling in the dark. What is the point without an alternative? Is that view modernity is a one-dimensional and ignores different options to plead for people's culture can lead to a virtual orientalism. It presents a narrow view equated with homogenization. Development does make significant improvements in quality of life. Denying the premise is a Western construct produces violence and Mueller checks. Rejection development equals endorsement of the status quo post to lose the man with the disapproval for overgeneralized and the Western technological and political achievements that registered of the living standards conceptual utilization of poverty. Western contracts with the anti-ethical as so much of the local which include local inequality and post-development was reapproached on its inability to connect discourse to real practice. Their monolithic impact claims are false and kill agency Guerrilla 97 and see to see development is monolithic. All powerful beyond influence. Drippings a myth of development based on the poor history betraying lack of knowledge, colonialism, real practice, ethnocentrism, the myth surplus and their developers and victims of the myth would have great difficulty in accompanying a wide range of agendas among the Indian women working in development. Development is not a single set of ideas with in development. There has always been a multiplicity of knowledge. No root cause. It's reductionist saying there are too many all kinds of too many proximate causes. More for war is a proxy absence among deterrents. I think the differences of poverty, social injustice may play a role. There may be an infinite factors motivating aggression. It is not the existence of such factors, but rather circumstances encouraging high risk decision is key to controlling where no one demonstrated the robust correlation with any traditional cause of war. Given the difficulties to overcome social problems as an approach exclusively depend on their solution may do much of war. Hudson's years if they reflect the rule, no general construct fits all because there are too many variables. Utah first, that Chandler, unfortunately, many are judged for problems and side effects, and more those are reviewed, the more ethical authority can be regained. We're responsible for the world, not because our actions led to writing down no good outcomes does not remove our ethical responsibility for actions.
Correct.
You sent that. Pardon me?
You did send that out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's stop. Yeah, that's definitely not it. Sorry. You're good.
It took me 2 minutes and 24 seconds to print.
That was sent.
Well, let's get started.
No, you're good to start, bro.
Yeah. You just paste this into the 2SC.
For sure.
You get 244 use. 760. Yeah. But we're gone. Okay. Never.
Let's not do this.
Lost now. also made the argument that the Earth will eventually turn into a giant ball of oil because oil is abiotic. Which, you know, those two things actually don't really. It doesn't mean that, but.
Sounds like you've had a fun day.
Yeah, I mean, the first round, the UNLV broke in UF about waste. So you had to debate about trash and then Islam. Alright, you get it?
Yes.
Okay, so the first question I have is about this engagement funding argument. So
Yep.
your argument is that the EPA would no longer be allowed to regulate greenhouse gas emissions as a result of the plan. Okay, cool. Just wondering. The second question
It
I
said
have
Trump's
is,
attempted.
yeah, the second question I have is then, so like counterplan, you know, no more endangerment finding. What is your offense? Now you
Counterplan
just, like,
precedent
lost-
overrides the plan, which
Why
means
would
that
the-
implementation of CPP will
The
be
precedent
essentially
overrides the
non-existent.
what?
It overrides the counterplan precedent overrides the plan, which means
Why?
that implementation of the
So we could still
would be
implement the
essentially
clean,
non-existent.
the clean power plan can still be implemented even if
It would also
does
get
not have an
struck down by the
endangerment
court
finding.
without expanding Chevron
The
deference.
federal government could, wait, what? Why would it be, no, the counterplan does not just get rid of Chevron deference. You've made the
EPA
argument
and the
that plan
endangerment finding would
expands it.
definitely get struck by the court with
Why?
strong Chevron deference, because the
No,
only way that
the court
they could
says
do
the
that.
the court says the Clean Air Act no longer allows the EPA to regulate greenhouse gases because the endangerment finding does not stand.
That means that
What's
the
your answer
counterplan
to
is
this?
so broad that other regs
Okay, I mean,
would
I
get struck
guess we'll
down
debate
solve
about this
the link to
later.
the plan.
So I want to ask about the antibiotic resistance. Actually, Michael Hart, you know he's a professor of anthropology. What evidence do you have that says that professors of anthropology are qualified to talk about the impact of climate
He
change?
cites other experts.
Like who? Like Craig Sherwood and Keith? Yeah,
He
those are the
cites-
instances. The last question
First
I
of all,
have
he
is
is
antibiotic
the science
resistance.
licensure of Norman
He's a medieval history professor. The antibiotic resistance impacts. Can you
Sure.
tell me which diseases become antibiotically resistant?
The fact that I can't tell you is exactly our argument.
That is not true. There are only so many diseases that are treated with antibiotics. In fact,
No,
the
our-
most,
our
I'll tell you,
evidence
I'm
says that
trying to
there are
become a doctor,
ongoing
so I'll let you
genetic-
know that most of the antibiotics that we prescribe to individuals and the diseases that are resistant are MRSA and staph. What about the affirmative?
Those are
That's
two of
staph.
them, but there are
Which
genetic
ones?
mutations which guarantee lethality.
Like in
and
what
there-
disease?
I can't tell you
What is the
specifically.
evidence like
So,
MRSA
no
transfer
impact.
resistance to VR?
Okay, what?
MRSA transfer resistance
To
to
what?
VRE.
To what?
VRE.
What is VRE?
It's a disease that
No, that's an acronym. It's not a disease. Okay.
Right,
Anyway,
it's an
the
acronym
global
for a disease.
the T restrict arguments. So you've read this card that says increase modifies restrictions, and the restrictions must be binding. Our argument is that you don't increase any restrictions. The CPP is already existing. They
It
already
doesn't
restrict
just
greenhouse
because
gases.
there's a legal stay on it. That's the common
Yeah, but
evidence.
you have not read a card about what the stay means. We have.
The
You're out of
common
time.
evidence says that the state returned parties to status quo such that
This
the
card is
retroactive
about
drained
this
all
card is
legal
about a
force.
marriage decision in Utah and not about the CPP.
I dare you to provide me a card that says the
We
state
did.
means that.
We did in the one in C.
No,
You've read a
the
card about
evidence that
marriage
you've read in the
restrictions.
one in C just says that states can choose to implement. Now,
No, it
if
says
that's
that
true,
state
then
is
any,
not legally binding.
any market incentive app would not
Why?
be topical under your interest. So
I
carbon
disagree
tax,
with that.
because cap and trade that exists, RGGI, California.
Okay.
How much time do we have? Like 7:16?
sorry. One more. A little bit more pressing. Alright, stop.
55.
Once. Yeah. One second. Then again. Ooh, LG to set. The bits counterplan. The bench counterplan. The T increase page. The chevron advantage counterplan. The global law advantage. And then the chevron advantage, just the first argument. Yes. The LG to set.
Yep.
The bits counterplan. T increase. The chevron advantage counterplan. Global law. And the chevron advantage. Alright. Anybody not ready? Cool.
The link term makes absolutely zero sense. They have zero evidence to quantify the result of those other regs and the endangerment finding being rolled back, but we have evidence that says that the CPP necessarily increases domestic natural gas production. You don't get them allowed to read another card in the 1 year because if they want to straight turn a dissent in the 2AC, they damn better read that card. They need to read LG exports are vital for global geopolitical stability, U.S. energy security undergirds the international order, short circuits are office, one is proximity, energy conflicts, control the largest internal links, escalation, resource tensions are being driven by sustainable industrial baseload. The F outweighs EU, outweighs the instability. Second is magnitude, Russian revisionism and expansion to the Baltic calls U.S.-Russian war, reliance on hybrid warfare, increase the risk of miscalculation, nuclear escalation. That's the Davis says evidence. Unlike Latin America, there's actually conflict where they would escalate because they are literally facing off every day. Turns case nuke winter, nuke winter, robot and 217 nuclear winter was created. Alternative theory field we can count there. Or stress we expect that to decrease the Russian U.S. and arsenal nuclear arsenal war. The U.S. less than 1% of current arsenal because of climate change unprecedented. Second terms, the global law advantage calls for power balancing the fractions cooperation developing countries, which is what the internal link is about. If there's a little bit a question on the link debate, I'm just gonna read a bunch of cards that the CPP necessarily triggers the link. Green in 1027 most assessments of the CPP don't reflect the high resource reality of states. Well, the compliance, they should consider the realistic size of the natural gas base under every compliance plan. The lowest cost market factor forces that's the highest natural gas generation and triple expedite LNG exports now, but raising domestic gas prices causes them to cut off exports, protect domestic manufacturing, pulse rate, and goes on 3-5 long-term interest rate trumps. While since the support LNG exports, the abundant supplies make the U.S. meet U.S. demand with that price increase. The OE will grant the export permits for LNG projects that exponentially over Trump's protections through the commercial export Trump up to prioritize U.S. domestic market by revoking export permits. If domestic gas prices spike, it would hurt U.S. manufacturing. The president could grant export permits. They've also linked to this without any uniqueness. R1 and C evidence says that natural gas exports are generally doing fine right now. Doing fine right now, and they're increasing. All they can do is maybe increase the supply of natural gas in the market, but that doesn't account for the CPP, which drastically increases demand, which they don't have. You can see the link to that, so the link term makes absolutely zero sense when you don't have any link defense. The PIDS counterplan.
Permutation of testing competition, we're not going for. I'm going to answer the add-on tier. The Philippines makes 0 cents to tier T means that they're not going to model the United States. Their evidence was from too old or Olivia. Evidence says that investment treaties the country has signed, which means there's no evidence that the Philippines are going to pull out from these investment treaties. Their Thompson evidence says that deforestation is a massive alternative cost, which means they maybe only sold for mining operations, but that's the reason for why biodiversity is already being overwhelmed. Their card also says to unravel this red by halting negotiations for further treaties, which means it's a question of whether or not further bits will be signed. You have no evidence that says that what the terms of these bits will be signed. There's no impact of biodiversity coverage at all. At 11, Granite Colleges oversee the fertility nature of the data that support the data nature of risky health, the spiritual ones, which is not the extinction of others, the demise of formally the bunch of species to be encountered to control review of the 246 ecosystem following major disturbances such as deforestation, mining, oil spills, and other pollution. Ecosystem function greater than 72% of these cases. Their Indonesia advantage describes the status quo. It says that investor bits are currently protecting the regulations. They have no uniqueness. They only have Latin American modeling, no Indonesia modeling evidence, and also there's no reason why litigation is able to solve it. Litigation is only solved. It's only after the fact, which means the environmental destruction has already happened, and it's not preventative. It's not preventative. And also, oxygen levels no amongst the earth and back to the ocean. Daily 8th level oxygen is falling to 30. Could only 30 survival and human life first. Force our limiting half the oxygen. It's scratch the card. But there's no impact. Progress to 96. Our atmosphere is now in such an enormous reserve that this gas, even if we burn all of our fossil fuel reserves, we would only end up abusing a few percentage of the available O2. We just simply do not have the capacity to put more of the small end of our O2. The person does not play down the role of maintaining the O2 because again, so much gas as they produce. T increase. Our interpretation is that the affirmative must defend a net increase in restrictions from the status quo. This is different than giving them something the forced law because resolution requires the act increase restrictions. They violated the plan, moves the federal court state of the clean power, clean power. They don't meet our evidence. Their candidate evidence from 2015. The Revis evidence is from 2016. You should confirm he's the dean of a chair law school. Says that the CPP is functionally in effect right now. The regulations have been promulgated. Just a question of stay, which is not the same thing as an injunction, which creates a force of law. Their net increase counter interpretation does not make any sense. It is not a net increase because it does not result in a new regulation. It only results in the enforcement of an existing regulation, which allows them to only go out of all of our dissent by making their rollback arguments. The first impact is limits any number of acts preventing Trump rollbacks, but the Obama-era policies like preventing rollback and entering federal cold leases, keeping the moratorium on Arctic drilling, codifying the parachute makes all those topical. This explicit topic because there's thousands of rules that leftists think that Trump would endanger forces and be prepared to be all those which makes negative preparation and clash impossible. Second is controversial ground, which link turns their flexibility arguments after no increase restrictions from a baseline gut uniqueness and for core dissent because they can only say the score should have already triggered your links and should have triggered your links and when your education argument makes no sense when they don't increase restrictions, which means undermines negative education because we don't get rid of dissents and have nuanced internal link debates because we're always debating things that have already happened, which is confined to status quo, which is not meaningful. And the ground loss was clearly demonstrated, but there are no rollback. We can't get to read dissents, which are based off of changes in the electricity sector because all these companies are already printing these in because the regulation has only been stated it's going to be rolling back. The rollback functional limits are able to check forces, the code, and tribe debates over states and federalism, and doesn't debate the new internal nuances. That reason to be able to about mediocrity. It always links to a limitless advantage above and forces race to the margins, and it causes the trade-off that if they try to run advantage counter plan, their solvency deficits are literally made up to this counter plan. They say that it's just key to wide latitude to enforce. Well, they should have read an add-on to something else to enforce, but the counter plan just fiats through for the broadband regulations and the environmental regulations, and just says that we should not do those things that the internal links are describing. We're also going to it also doesn't uphold the Keeling counter plan, which is able to solve. But also, we'll add another plank to it. The United States federal government should find the Clean Air Act does not give the Environmental Protection Agency the authority to regulate greenhouse gas emissions by rejecting the endangerment finding. And then the plan text in that should say does not give. That also takes out any uniqueness for the link turn on the LNG exports. Disadvantage permutation obviously can't solve because it just doesn't regulations. This is regulations would cut back on it. The global law advantage. The re-highlighting of our evidence was never read into the debate, which means you should reject the team because cross-sex now doesn't count the want to see evidence, want to see fantastic. Fantastic says that they create different interpretations of different case laws and different arbitration cases, which makes compliances between both different countries impossible, which increases the patchwork between the states, and incentivizes states and private actors to circumvent multilateral organizations, which undermines the legitimacy of international investment regimes and increases economic costs because it adds extra layers outside the multilateral regime, which increases compliance costs for states and firms, decreases economic welfare, and diverse investment away from the optimal locations. 2 and C. Number one is our name. Our evidence bits are diffused globally already right now because there's competitive pressure to increase foreign direct investment, which disproves the necessity of Chevron to jives well with their choice. Number 1 and C. Number 3, evidence is if states do need FDI to remain stable, then they'll implement bids because that'll grow their economy. They have no evidence that comes close to the threshold that says these states don't understand how to generate economic development. 2 C. Number 4, their answer is incoherent. The Pioneer evidence is that bids are overlapping and can recalibrate instead of rejecting them necessarily. Investors still want legal protection, so the FDI is not going to decrease. There's always the possibility of future cooperation between the two countries. Between the two countries, the Russia scenario makes no sense. The L7 cites existing Russian involvement in the region by Colombia, working with FARC, which disproves uniqueness. Their Latin American instability evidence is from a lawyer who sues for companies in bid disputes. He's writing on his blog. The closest thing it comes to an impact is that it will decrease the FDI in these countries, but it does not say global instability. It's just creatively highlighted in the box to make this argument. Also, the link assumes Russia being in Latin America. Cross-ex proves that is the status quo. There's zero evidence that substantiates that U.S. will get drawn into a conflict in this region. It should have already happened because they've been there for decades, which is what their evidence says. Their bare extinction card is about an accidental nuclear launch between the U.S. and Russia. They have no card that comes close to saying that in a Latin American country, a conflict will escalate. It's also just an impact card for the Baltic conflict, which proves the impact on the LNG scenario. There's no impact to the global order or Damacha evidence. Their Damacha evidence assumes that the law of armed conflict ceases to exist. They have no card that says there's been spillover between legal and investment protections and eviscerating other laws of armed conflict. Bids don't solve fail states. Colon and L16, the degrees to which foreign investments can create growth are very considered. The paper represents the first attempt to empirically study the heterogeneous effect of bids. Bids nesting play a major role in investments. Institutions are results shown for the first time investment protection have a heterogeneous effect across investments or results. Study the question whether bids are most effective to attract for investment that are most beneficial for development. The bids are most beneficial for development. Most of our evidence says there's no impact to failed states. There's no reason why these will go nuclear escalate. The most likely they would turn inwards and major powers like are drawn in the Chevron advantage. I'm going to answer the rollback argument here. They can't roll it back. That's the Harvey evidence. Reject the team. They inserted 3 highlighted without reading it. It's a substantive portion, so a substantive part of the card, which means they should have read it. But the fiats that the CPP has upheld, even if they have cards that say Trump would have some ability to impede the EPA, that just describes the status quo and does not assume the legal ruling. The the word should means we should debate the desirability of the plan, which means they should seriously stop doing this. There are also too many hurdles that prevent rollback. Identified in a Harvey card, there's checks and balances, notice and comment, rulemaking, and further litigation. All acts as a stop gate on deregulation. Beyond the court means that Trump can't roll back rally. 11-9, how can Trump could eliminate the ECPP? It's very much linked to litigation that's pending in the federal court to present himself as a state time number, but now we need to see where the Trump would come out on this issue. The administration will actively support and help us. It all work out will depend on what court does. Environmental public health organizations, the EP state allies would defend the rule, even if Trump were to decide not to defend the rules. Groups or parties that they are standing to defend the rules. Courts up to hold Trump's EPA would have to go through the formal rulemaking and public notice of comment to rescind the rule. Trump would have to go through a reasonable explanation for why it changed mind, why the agency changed mind for obviously political reasons that produces difference. And even if you roll back, the actual triggers the links or dissad. Number 1110 at the George Senate did uphold the CPP. The Trump would order the EPA to start over again. This isn't easy to take at least 15 months to involve in notice and rule proposed rules soliciting public comment. The press would get bogged down for the lawsuits for environment groups which are very skilled.
Good. Top County resident evidence in the ununderlined part says the court issued a stay on CPP. This unquestionably bars the EPA from enforcing any requirements until lawsuits are fully resolved. EPA cannot impose CPP requirements on any state that does not voluntarily act. How do you remedy that?
The 1NC evidence, which defines increase, which you conceded, says from a baseline. The regulations have already been promulgated. The difference between an injunction and a stay, which is very important, which you don't have evidence on, but we do have evidence on, is that the current regulations are staying.
What court have you read that defines injunction v. stay?
I think the 1NC Reza evidence does.
I just reread that at you, dude.
You read part of it, obviously.
Yeah.
You didn't read
EPA cannot impose CPP requirements on any state that does not voluntarily act.
You're reading, obviously.
Sounds like you're mixing salty and T-birds. What apps
We're
are
not
top
mixing
under your
salty and
enter?
T-birds. It says a stay does not stop agency.
What
efforts.
apps are
The
top
EPA,
under your enter?
Any app which increases a new restriction that has not been promulgated.
So cap and trade?
Cap and trade carbon tax, which are great debates
Really?
to have.
But the RGGI exists and
That's
California,
a state, it's a question of federal regulation.
Okay,
That
hold on, let me
argument
ask my
makes
question.
sense.
California is doing cap and trade right now. Your whole argument is that states can implement voluntarily and you get no link uniqueness for disads because of that. Why is that not equally as true for those apps?
That argument makes zero sense. The resolution says the United States federal government. It doesn't say California should. This Reves evidence says that at the federal level it has been implemented.
You realize how little sense that makes because your entire T argument relies upon the fundamental premise that you don't get link uniqueness because we can just say, oh no, non-unique because states are implementing now. Why is that not equally as true for the
not just the
GGI
states, but the
California
federal.
under cap and trade?
We have no uniqueness at the federal level, which is what's important.
At the federal level,
The Reves
your
evidence
rest of evidence
does-
says that states are voluntarily implementing.
No, it says the state does not
does that have
stop
to do with the
agency
federal
efforts.
level?
It says that the rules which have been promulgated are in effect functionally by the EPA, which is a reason why you get to say no. You know, it's been rolled back, so we can know like your dissets.
The Johnston evidence says that, quote, risks from fragmentation have been faced in international investment regimes.
Sorry, why didn't you read that in your speech? Like, come on, dude.
This is your ad. You should cut better cards.
The card's great. We cut
This
the
says that
cards.
tribunal standards are imprecise. We agree. Chevron-style deference is necessary to remedy that. How do you overcome that?
That's a very selective reading what the evidence says.
It's a quote from Europe. Risks from fragmentation have been facing international.
And the argument for why fragmentation happens, which comes from the Johnston evidence, is about the transaction costs inherent within the bilateral investment treaties. When states are forced to go through multiple different mechanisms, which is not solved by the affirmative, it's intrinsic to bilateral investment treaties. It creates webs of regulation around the
Colon evidence in the ununderlined part says results confirm that strong dependency in FDI bids have overall positive impact is statistically significant. Results suggest that bids are generally successful in attracting FDI. Actual purpose of this paper is to analyze whether effectiveness varies across sectors. It's only about manufacturing.
Well, no. The argument is it goes more nuanced. It says that not all FDI is created equal. Some types of FDI increase growth within states. And this evidence says that bids increase the FDI. That doesn't actually increase.
But it says that they're overall successful. That's
no, it does not.
It's typical every other.
Every evidence is great. Back down.
The critique, the place for the gas read the 2NC counterplan, then conditionality, which is on T. That wasn't my fault, so. And yeah, so the critique first, then the place where the 2NC counterplan was read. That would I'm just gonna say 2NC counterplan's good. Honestly, you can throw it wherever. Then T for conditionality, and the Chevron advantage.
The top or bottom of the advantage?
The like term is where I'll start.
Critique not going for all. No, there's no offense. Concede the permutation. The 2NC counterplan, they're good. They're key to respond to 2NC charges, especially add-ons and unique design answers. The alternative is sandbagging, which make the negative impossible, especially with the new advantage. There's no offense. Crossing with the 2NC solves and new advantage proves the argument. Reject the argument of the team. Conditionality, counter-interpretation, vote for energy, being an opportunity cost of the affirmative being negative is intrinsically reactionary because the affirmative sets a structure for debate. Logic outweighs. You would never vote for the affirmative. It's better than doing nothing. They dropped that in the 2AC and they're out of construction. The only war in the 2AC was strats Q and times Q, and this was a blip. You should not let the 1 year blitz up. This has T violation speed. Reactionary 2 hours check. This dispose bad. It forces permutation and allows 2C choice, which decreases critical thinking and how to respond to our offense. The case advantage status quo EPA rules are sufficient to check climate change because it limits harmful pollutants. The plan defers to the Trump administration that rolls back regulations for things like methane that uniquely cause warming. Warming erodes a fundamental basis for life. It's a system structure and risk amplifier by reversing loss, droughts, floods, crop failure, and displacement, making extinction inevitable. Resource constraints subset every other impact. It causes deforestation and the Indonesia impact as well as the global law impact. Warming causes backlash from every country as they no longer have resources to keep up. Mitigation now is necessary because fender windows are closing and never degree counts independently concede the ocean acidification impact, which causes collapse of system sustainability and turns the entirety of the affirmative. Turns net neutrality status quo, protects net neutrality and prevents over-regulation. Right now, Chevron is the only question that determines whether Trump's FCC can roll back net neutrality or not. Congress won't act because of the threat of filibuster, which proves our uniqueness argument, i.e. there will be deregulation of the internet and the status quo, but judicial reference to agencies causes rollback of the deregulation. Our national evidence says that the FCC is clamoring for internet regulation, which means deferring to them, means that the court no longer is able to backlash against them, which prevents the effective deregulation. Trump also cuts H-1Bs beyond 17.1, contributing on H-1Bs that's using ambiguities for reference, replace the H-1B lottery, impose restrictions in the skies, limit shorten the duration to change regulation covering immigration-related discrimination, turns bio defense, that's rose to the federal agency involved in defense contractors, recent talent shortages that keep them responding effectively to an attack. The flow of talent is shrinking by terms in the places you purchase the small political, medical, scientific, technical experiences, organization, or activity features that may present disaster. Demand for biodefense is growing while the supply is not the number of people and energy being earning advanced degrees of biology is decreasing. The agency deference undermines the ESA. It's savage and succeeding. Trump will dismantle the regulatory framework. President could change dramatically. Regulated industries that has long sought a number of environmental reforms which now find life in the Trump administration priorities include limiting the substantive requirements of the Endangered Species Act. That solves the ecosystem and turns all of their add-ons. That's green while the 14th ESA remains the best tool for saving species habitats and helping declining population. Recovery ESA is uniquely qualified success at saving species from extinction. These policies protecting the habitats and saving the species can mean saving an entire ecosystem. The only argument the 2C made was no link because no spillover. Their rollback argument is our link argument. The plan means that Chevron deference as a precedent is set. It means that the EPA is no longer allowed to roll back regulations because the courts always defer to agency readings of the Clean Air Act. Only the court checking is necessary, which is the status quo reference to Trump caused rollback of methane regulations. Here's a spillover card you want to donate. In 2017, Trump has about to rescind its course of regulation, but his court nominee may not give birth to make those reversals. Of course, he's been a vigorous advocate of Chevron. Obama relied heavily on them to impose mandates on energy and environment. Trump agencies need the same leeway to undo them. This just as Chevron gives the agencies leeway to interpret countries and statute empowers the administration to change direction. Exactly the reversal of Trump has signaled on regulations limiting methane leaks from oil wells. Methane is uniquely catastrophic warming. McGill 2016, Obama announced rules aimed at cutting methane emissions. Methane warmed then climbed to 86 more times than carbon dioxide. Methane leaking from oil industry equipment significantly increases the carbon footprints of natural gas. Regulations require companies to find and continue coal reducing methane by 11 million metric tons by 2025. The director of the World Resources Institute the rules encouraging industry to install low-cost safeguards every ton of methane that escapes from our pipes and drilling wells, placing an outsized role in warming our planet and eroding Chevron deference is key constraint Trump because the courts are necessary as a review to prevent an overreach on the environment. Jewel is 2017 Obama's environmental regulation will be Trump for proof to undo the early days are not indicative of the administration that speed is supposed to a thoughtful process and required to compile the administrative record to which scrutiny given the legal structure of the office faces impediments to this agenda. Their hard evidence is unqualified. Their only impact defense argument up to Meyer Evelyn from the IPCC report you should reject it. He's a professor of medieval history at Heartland and no date. Heartland is a policy advisor for Heartland. He holds an MA in medieval history. You should also reject the Heartland Institute because there are a bunch of climate deniers who only cite its reports. The impact defense portion of this debate, no terminal impact diseases. They burn out in the status quo because either they're true virulent, which means that they kill the host, or they don't spread quickly enough, which means they're not able to ask what the ABR impact is about MRSA. They are not able to isolate a disease other than an acronym. You should prefer our impact defense to ABR does not status quo solve resistance killer machine 15. We're starting to see research in antibiotic research, several exciting developments in new methods of discovering targets, as well as a few candidates for antibiotics, vaccine targets, and it's an entirely different part of the cell. It doesn't have the potential to develop resistance to the same curve that antibiotics do. The incentive is growing to come up with new methods of growing microbes. The only antibiotic that's being resisted right now is vancomycin. They have no internal link to vancomycin spilling over to all medical innovation. They have no control internal link to medical innovation. Their evidence is about net neutrality, which does not spill over to developing countries. They've conceded the argument that distribution is necessary. We already have tons of vaccines in the status quo, but developing countries don't want them because they reject U.S. assistance, which means the current plan can't solve MRSA. Is inevitable abuse of 2008 MRSA is becoming more common, particularly in terms of it's unlikely MRSA will be totally eradicated. MRSA is very contagious, prevalent, currently increasing. Even if you were to succeed in eradication, MRSA will likely be introduced. No terminal impact to bioterror pathogens are at sprayed at nose level. 90% die during aerosolization. Sunlight, small humidity, and temperature changes destroy its organism. Storage is impossible. Countermeasures such as vaccine salted delivery systems are too sophisticated to even work with. This is Mueller evidence. If their argument is true that motivation exists, they will always be able to overwhelm defenses. Even if we have fast-paced medical innovation, we need quarantines and shit like that. The affirmative does not control the internal link that no terminal impact. Jefferson 14 experts consider the risk of bioterrorism very small, backed by historical evidence of 3 attempts where small scale, low causality, considerable knowledge and resources are necessary to scaling up storage and developing dissemination methods. These present significant technical, logistical, value microorganisms sensitive even to the appropriate expertise. The process can take up to years. Agents must be ingested or inhaled through dilution. Effect would be so great that no person would receive an infectious dose. Ensure techniques such as chlorination or infiltration kill pathogens. Contamination of the food is also unlikely. They can control an internal link to global bioterror dissemination, which means if an attack is inevitable overseas, the plan is inevitable to resolve it. Strong Chevron deference is key to preventing Trump's overreach. That was the card above there. That crushes U.S. diplomacy acquire.
Actually, no, I'm not going to read that. Read another card on courts constrain Trump.
Jefferson's card's market unlikely.
Which one?
Jefferson.
Which card?
Jefferson.
Oh, yeah, I heard
Alright, we have.
Okay, cool. it's just the mic.
Oh, I thought it was a camera.
I think the camera's right there. Also is tiny.
I can be this tired. Get old.
Order's gonna be. Oops. Right.
Everyone just seems to
That 1 second. You're honest around here.
Order is going to be chevron, global law, sorry, global law, the strike down counterclaim, chevron, the net neutrality chevron counterclaim, T, LNG,
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I lost my voice.
global law advantage, the counterclaim that they kicked, the chevron advantage, the counterclaim that they extended, T, the LNG.
What?
Sure. The global law advantage affirming interpretations is wrong. There's no patchwork or multilateral circumvention in the time, but they or yeah, they sound pretty big. All the reasons are basically are terrorists coming down with the fabric of international arbitration, which are going to escalate. They're not dropping out because of populist demands, even if FDI's good populations are demanding it, which overwhelms their internally. The paranoid evidence is non-responsive. Our arc is not about complete system withdrawal. Developing country fractures to enters the global order into regional blocks that are component there. Pine-Hard Act concludes a laundry list of countries that are unilaterally withdrawing from investment treaties, even if they don't exist. They exit the system as a whole. Triggers are impact. Pine-Hard 16, the ISDS has made work by some legitimacy, takes no sizable compensation of investors. Many see perfection unfair because they do not allow for reasonable state competition, maybe device release. Inconsistent ICS and not the states are uncertain about what they were getting commitments to reliable while constraining bonds and making more and more states are interested in recalibrating commitments and price that legitimate generates the to withdraw unilateral withdrawals from investment treaty Bolivia, Venezuela, Ecuador, South Africa, Indonesia, Latin American. Yes, there is an impact of backlash causes broader fracturing of the global economic order, which is sufficient to cause our impact there. Russia causes extinction. Latin American instability draws to Russia and the US would cause a hair trigger miscalculation. Yes, it would cause war there in Latin America. Now it's a question of triggering instability and it causes accidental launch, which is likely the global economic order impact fragmenting order causing the global war. Another defense assumes our scenario global hotspots to connect with local backlash and terrorism. Hegemons former armed blocks and are running through proxy wars collapse of normal causes arms raising miscalculated powers will resort to force to secure resources which causes extinction. There's their myths fail argument. Yes, we can insert evidence counter-interpretation. We have to read it in cross-examination. Solves ground because we still waste our time reading the evidence. Solves all the reasons why we shouldn't insert debates and oral activities so we access it. Inserting key to incentivize better card-cutting practices, which is necessary to education. Protect the argument on the team. Blueprint calling during cross-examination says bits are not key for manufacturing, but they are key to validity of other sections are overall successful. I will also read it here. Colon in 16 results come from structure. Now, fuck it. Go on to the Chevron bench. Concede there's no impact to biodiversity, which was their answer to the Philippines, is going to make it incredibly difficult to win any sort of warming or biodiversity impact on the Trump bag arguments. Chevron. Not going for this, concede there's no impact to either bioterrorism or disease. The Chevron bad arguments. Warming doesn't turn the economic order. Backlash is the status quo, and the plan is sufficient to overwhelm it because it restores confidence in the ability for international regulators to provide a fair balance and not strike down environmental regulations. Methane regulations are not key to overall warming. It's a drop in the bucket, not key to acidification or global emissions. There's no spillover or modeling argument, which means that China and India emissions outweigh. Chevron isn't key to their immigration numbers. Kagan 16 Chevron states they're doing good level immigration cases. Chevron entirely relevant. Deportation, different differences, and more sort of after case by case examination, immigration cases are the total size of the Chevron parts of paper the Chevron applies. The conceded biodiversity defense definitely takes out the ESA impacts. There's no impact to warming, slow, long-term, zero to enormous models. Second, adaptations. All species are resilient. There are many causes to biodiversity that are unrelated to climate. That's the hard evidence. He's qualified, citing a litany of data. They're ad hoc. They're just none of their arguments apply or take out the wars where evidence extinction requires 12 degrees, which will never happen for a 17. The most likely levels of warming are related to cause extinction. The existential risk from tailors low probability of change warming 12 degrees Celsius would render the planet habitable times because the advantage is able to avoid extinction even to starting probability 6 degrees is 10% in 10. The risk is 30%. These are highly uncertain. The world will take action over the beginning of the long before 10 degrees warming is irreversible. Methane isn't key. Adler in 15 melting ice boulders have oceans regulation causing Earth to warm faster, melting causing more altitude increase of 1 degree result in higher sea level. We got a couple of decades of warming ahead of reason emission 2°C is already unrealistic. At that point, the warming becomes exponential 1.5 degrees. That's justified because they read new evidence in the black that methane was key to overall warming, which means that we get that. The
time frame first intervening actors.
Yeah, time frame first intervening actors. So they should check their you should default to warming. Sorry, go to the other camera. We did go and extend the Chevron advantage, which means that this doesn't solve anything. Perturbation to both. We're not going for it. There's no solvency deficit. It obviously doesn't solve global law. They don't have the plank that leads to it. T. Oh yeah, solves the efficacy. You should reject the team on this. This is dropped in the 2AC. It's you need it. Otherwise, it kills clash and makes the education impossible. At least to be infinite capital. Let's skew affirmative strategy. You what? T. They mix burdens, none of their interpretation arguments are grounded in the resolution. That kills predictability and turns all their offense. Extend we meet, we create a new legal restriction. CPP has no force of law. The F is a net increase. Extend or interpretations established means to make enforceable, and policy requires the force of law. The plan meets it. It makes CPP enforceable. That's barred now there. One is the author concedes it. Revis in 16 court should say the CPP this unquestionable powers CPP for enforcing it regarding to lawsuits are fully resolved. VP kind of power that impose CPP requirements on a state of the design of the CPP is not an effective state removing force of law. Proposition 16 the Supreme Court voted the black CPP states need to comply to litigation. This will this rule. This method will no longer enforce the law. However, the state halts CPP and removes the legal obligation to comply. Harrison 16 the court granted the state the CPP is all within the state no longer obligated to implement CPP and develop state. The state blocks the implementation will remain until affirmatively reversed by the Supreme Court. Fox and 16 court issued to state the CPP decision halts implementation restriction on the emission of the administrative fraction by the states that planning to slide the state would remain until the rules of state is determined. They are indistinct in the context of agencies between the injunction and state are indistinct in the context of agency. Capanova intent the circuit admitted functional law between state and injunction distinction rests more in the function of special in the states that receives and agency rather just not scope compliance. Within the 16th, the state means the receipt of less pressure on the state to develop plan to meet the CPP deadlines means cessation of purpose development compliance plans. The compliance plans, and if there are argues that any act that could potentially be voluntarily complied with or be done in scope as a topical zero AFs meet, the cap and trade and government explorers still both have small state programs that improves at zero meet. This is no different than any other future enactment is theoretically possible. Any legislation could pass the CBD doesn't exist now. The plan upholds it. A deviation from the status quo that establishes because it doesn't exist on a firm basis, which is more than phrases than 50 from the Jewish is not voting. The remedy is status quo multiples of time significance, and we should be punished for using our timely unique as an issue to our advantage. Hard base good and incentivize reason makes debate more further. Reasonability good is good enough. You should goalpost shifting.
Back to the endangerment count.
Going back to the endangerment count plan, the permutation to both count plan, precedent over as the plan means implementation of the CP people is essentially non-existent. The CP is so rare the other branch gets struck down, solves the linked plan. CP fails, it will be struck down by the Supreme Court without expansion, whatever says the Malloy evidence. And go to the LGD. I'm only going to roll back here. Trump attempts to completely kill the CPPR contingent on broad Chevron. He needs wide leeway in order to reinterpret the CAA and end the endangerment finding. Without Chevron, EPA is legally required to develop restrictions because of existing endangerment finding, which triggers the DA more than the F. Those Donahue in 16. CPP is a reasonable action that the manager of the CAA will have a cost-effective, well-suited, competent, compliance of the petition based on misrepresentation of the transfer-based club, no ethical, reflective of non-direct transfer, dating role of driving clean directions to reducing cold readily achievable reduction for reducing policies and flexible action point in managing the industry tax role that achieve reduction of wealth and less flexible print challenges reverse with the EPA towards less workable more cost-effective even. They for zero and about our CAA reinterpretation argues certain as all the defense will defend the desirability of the course ruling, which means that we should, but it makes litigation a negative argument.
LG just said? T increase, or I just put T increase down. The Chevron Advantage counterplan, the global law advantage, the Chevron advantage.
Say that again, please.
Yeah, you're good. LNG to set. The Chevron advantage counterplan.
That's for the solvency theory.
Yeah, solvency active theory. The global law counter, the global law advantage, the Chevron advantage. All right. All right. Everybody good? There are a couple conceded framing issues, which means they cannot win a link turn. First, they do not have a piece of evidence which quantifies the amount of natural gas which will be added to the market or the price of the natural gas in the event that there's an endangerment finding. That was an app burden which did not provide. Second, they do not have a uniqueness argument. They have we have a uniqueness argument that says that natural gas exports are happening now, and we only have link evidence that says that the CPP massively thumbs out when it is implemented, which makes this a question of the rollback debate. Three is that the rollback debate they are very light on, which means you should give me a lot of leeway and not allow new TOER extrapolations. A couple of arguments. First, should means the desirability of the plan. They must defend the implementations, i.e., I'm going to defend the implementation of the plan. They don't just defend the legal desirability, but the actual implementations. Otherwise, we can't have a debate, have a debate about it. Otherwise, debate just falls into legal theory, not climate policy, which is why this is the climate topic and not the legal topic. Second, they have conceded the Harvey and the Plummer card, which we have in the 2NC and the 1NC card that says that there are too many legal barriers to overcome the endangerment finding. You have to go through a notice and comment process, redoing the rulemaking process, which means that Trump is not going to be able to do that. He has to provide facts and reasons, i.e., why the warming does not exist and why the endangerment finding is false when they have not provided any evidence that substantiates that he has that information or their lawyers can be successful. Only we have predictive evidence about the future of the endangerment finding. This shit is pretty damning because they have no defense to the rest of the LNG to say. That means that LNG exports are going to Europe right now. The CPP's implementation increases domestic demand for natural gas production. Even if it gets rolled back, it creates the perception that there will be the increase of demand. That means that natural gas does not get to the EU, which means that Russia war is coming now, which they've agreed, but it comes in the Baltic, not in Latin America. It's faster to escalate because Russia's been involved in Latin America for a long time now, and war hasn't escalated, but Baltics are increasing because of revisionism specifically in those countries, and the use of hybrid warfare means that nuclear war is exceptionally likely. They've dropped all of the terms case analysis, and they've kicked most of their advantages, so it doesn't make sense. It totally jacks global modeling because nuclear war blacks out the atmosphere, makes the life ag impossible, it disincentivizes any cooperation between the countries. It also escalates tensions between the U.S. and Russia and other regions, so they're not likely to cooperate, and there's no reason a way that they could have the bits because the states are choosing between Russia and the United States, so there's no incentive to have a coherent international order. They didn't extend their bioterrorism scenario. The bioterrorism scenario, they only went for defense on the Chevron advantage, which makes no sense. It also creates a bunch of failed states because when they're involved in conflict, there's no reason to cooperate with each other. The counterplan, we'll concede that hard debate is good debate, which was the argument that they made on topicality and also reasonability, which means that if we didn't make debate impossible, we should not reject the team. We clearly didn't make it impossible because this is a logical interpretation based on what they said. They have also conceded conditionality, logic. We get to do what we want. We're negative, we're flexible, and flexible they rent new advantages, which means we're inherently congestionary ground. Reject the argument, not the team. The global law advantage. There's literally no impact. The 1 year was incoherent on this, and every evidence is that bits are already globally disused now. There's competitive pressure to get a bunch of FDI, which disproves the necessity of Chevron. If these states need these to remain stable, then they'll implement BIS, but there's no reason why Chevron's the magic formula that gets these countries to get on board and realize, holy shit, we should fix our economies if we're going to collapse. The Pioneer evidence is good, and their answer, rear highlighting, doesn't make sense. It says there have been 3,000 instances where bits have been pulled out of it, and it hasn't caused collapse because states prefer to recalibrate instead of get rid of the bits because they know that they need the FDI in the long run. Investors still have legal protections, which means they'll continue to invest rather than completely pulling out. There's no impact to the Russia scenario. There's no impact to the Russia scenario. Blah, blah, blah. Here we go. First, it's not unique. There else evidence is that Russia's been involved in the region for decades. They've been funding FARC and other insurgent groups within Colombia, which is a U.S. ally, which means if the threshold is Russia messing around in these countries, then it should have already triggered the conflict. Second, there's no internal link to instability. There evidence is from a blog of written by a lawyer who's on the side of corporations and bid disputes. The closest it gets to instability is that FDI decreases, but they have not read a card that substantiates the collapse of FDI to these bid treaties collapsing. They've also not contested our articulation that collapse of investor certainty and BIS does not spill over to the global rules order. Their DHM evidence is talking about about the law of armed conflict, which there's no comparison to. They haven't contested this, so they don't get a new argument in the 2AR, which means that there's no way they can solve for proliferation and all these other conflicts which have the potential to escalate. And even if they can, the internal link is so tenuous, but they have conceded a link chain for a disad, which means the probability of the disad is intrinsically higher and the higher in the linear framing issues, which they've conceded consistently and just read cards on it and didn't interact with their arguments, means that you should err negative highly on these arguments. The last argument is that bits are not necessary for state stability. Yes, it does. They do increase FDI, but it doesn't increase FDI in the right places of their economy. The Marshall evidence says that it increases FDI in like commercial and service sectors, which are not the ones needed to increase state stability because state stability because it's about the long run economic prosperity of these states and not the short term prosperity. They've also conceded another card that said the bid regime is stable now. There's no reason why it's going to escalate. The Chevron advantage. Oh, also the counterplan kicking all the planks not going forward means there's no reason they can solve for the LG disad, right? All right. In the Chevron case. They've also conceded all parts of the Chevron case. They conceded all parts of the dissent, saying that warming is not a big deal. Any offense we win means you vote negative. Deferring to agencies allows Trump to roll back environmental protections necessary to fight the catastrophic climate warming. What do you want me to read?
Just do the rollback stuff instead.
I already did I did all the rollback stuff on the case. Their only argument is that there's backlash right now in the status quo that does not respond to our argument about the legal procedure that Trump has to go through. Trump has to go through the methane has to go through. What do you want me to do here?
I think you should just do more
More
rollback.
rollback. All right. We're not extending any of the warming stuff. It's impact defense. They have no offense. They have no offense on this flow. That's do more work on the rollback stuff. Their only argument they possibly could win is that they implement the legal certainty of the plan. There's no interpretation of the resolution in which it says legal certainty. It means that the climate policy has to be certain. We're debating the desirability of that climate policy. They've not read another card that says that there would be rollback would be possible. The rereading of the Harvey evidence was never answered into the debate. Even if you grant them some sort of rereading, we read the Plummer card that says there's a long legal and notice comment process. Even if Trump has the desire, and they have retorted the powerful cards that he wants to repeal the CPP, it's not a question of actually if he can. Only we have normative and descriptive cards.
We have 229. Order. The global advantage. The Chevron advantage. The LNG descent. All right, everyone good? Great.
The Tunar has massively shot himself in the foot by not extending the uniqueness counterplan to solve all of our turns, which are going to be massive risk of offense against our distant MSU. Shenanigans have killed Emory in this debate. I will winning massive turn to dissent because they have fundamentally zero answer to our turns, which means the debate is over. Fragmented economic order causes nuclear lash out. I'm just extending this as a tiebreaker, as a reason to what if none of their defense assumes any of our scenarios, which they have zero defense or impact. Global hotspots will ignite for backlash and terrorism, which prove that there are no uniqueness for any of their turns to the LNG dissent, because backlash is the status quo. Hegemons will thus form around hostile blacks and are drawn in through great power. Proxy wars collapse of the rules-based economic norm causes arms racing and miscalculation, which great powers will resort to force to ensure that they have resources. Also turns into dissent because a strong liberal international order makes conflict way less likely to break out because it creates economic interdependence among countries. Their only evidence here is that bids are diffused now, which is garbage. There's zero diffusion now. Number of states have pulled out, which is catalyzing a broader movement towards sovereignty away from arbitration. Continue balancing concerns through Chevron is necessary to sustainability of those institutions. FDI is obviously not inevitable when you have continued fundamental uniqueness claim that countries are backlashing now, which causes massive opt-out. Lopsided FDI does not benefit them, so they perceive it as their best interest to regionalize. Also, the survival clause means that they're stuck in it for 15 years. The Pine Hard evidence is non-responsive. Our argument has never been about full system withdrawal, rather regionalization, which necessarily creates a fracture which splinters the global order into regional blocks that are conflict prone. Evan reread the Pine Hard evidence and actually reread it, didn't just insert it now, and said that there are multiple countries which are backlashing now and are unilaterally withdrawing, which is sufficient to trigger our impact. Their next evidence says no, or group the Russia defense. I'm not going to go for it. No impact to Russia. They say no evidence says collapse of FDR, but all of it prefer specificity. We have the only internal link evidence which says that we are key to solve the backlash. They say our evidence about law of armed conflict. This argument is fundamentally incoherent. I've explained the impact above, but this also doesn't make any sense when we have a uniqueness claim, and our evidence is not just about the law of armed conflict, it's about the fragmented global economic order and the ability to preserve the regional order. They say bits are not key because they invest in the wrong places. Evidence where I reread the colon evidence in Crossing says that their evidence just says it's not key to manufacturing, but it is key to a litany of other sectors and are thus overall successful. The Chevron advantage, the rollback debate. The only two pieces of evidence that Gaz extends on this page are that have warrants that say litigation, but the plan does not preclude rollback. The plan text says uphold, not implement. The court thus determines that the CPP is statutorily permissible, but the executive does not implement it. All of their no rollback evidence says litigation, but we internal link turn that because we have read evidence that says Chevron precedent makes litigation more likely to fail because it causes deference to new Trump agency rules. No other defense on this page takes out any of our offense. Dissent. I'm gonna go super fucking slow here because it is very complicated, but they have massively dropped the ball. In the status quo, Trump's attempt to completely kill the CPP will fail because of lack of broad Chevron. The plan provides wide deference, which enables his administration to reinterpret the Clean Air Act and end the endangerment finding. That endangerment finding is what all of their evidence says would force the CPP to be struck down, would force the CPP implementation post-plan because of litigation. But if the CPP gets struck down now, which they've conceded is the status quo, worse legislation inevitably fills in because of that endangerment finding. That would force the Trump administration to implement things like NACS or other policy, which is worse for GHG restrictions. That is sufficient to trigger the link, which is way, way worse than the CPP. The Donahue evidence from the 1AR says that, or the Donahue evidence is comparative and says that CPP is flexible and lower cost, and his new restrictions post strike down would be net worse and cause more LNG demand. Their own 1NC Levi evidence supports this because it sets the bar super, super low. Their evidence says, quote, this applies no matter what the alternative use is for natural gas. Implementation of a carbon price, clean energy standard, or regulation is sufficient to trigger the link, which obviously massively expands the scope of the link. This means that you should have a super, super low threshold for their link turn, or for the link turn. Every single argument that they read on Chevron bad, on case, is our argument. Strong Chevron deference is necessary for Trump's ability to reinterpret the Clean Air Act, which means that he doesn't have to go through things like notice and comment and litigation periods that their Plumer and Harvey evidence are necessarily indicative of. That means even if you grant them 100% risk of every single word and there's no rollback evidence, we still win the debate because every single argument they've made on Chevron bad in this debate proves that the plan gives Trump sufficient leeway to do away with the plan, which is a net offense against the dissent. There's a reason that we conceded all of their internal links on Chevron page. They're damning and destroy any ability for them to garner a link to the dissent. Free me, all of it. No takebacks. No takebacks. Yeah. Free me, all of their evidence says no rollback arguments only apply in a world which says CPP gets struck down, because if that happened, Trump would be forced to implement new legislation restricting emissions under mass EPA finding. They say plan text should ensure we meet because view the plan text in a vacuum, on face topical. They say notice and comment. We've internal linked her notice and comment and all litigation, which is their warrant, because Chevron precedent makes that more likely to fail. They say, Harvey, that was answered above. Look, this debate is super, super simple to decide. We have a risk of an advantage. They have no risk of a dissent because we control massive, massive, massive external offense. There's no way they can get out of this. And they didn't extend a uniqueness kind of plan to get out of the turns, which means even if you grant them 100% risk of a dissent, we turn the shit out of it. Yeah, you just send me the okay.
Can we also have Bird dogs?
Yeah.
Probably. They've been changing the schedule, so I don't know if the.
Are you ready?
Did you decide or no?
I will, 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Great. Okay, we have a decision. I don't know who the, am I the chair? I can be the chair. Gladly. Great debate. The winner on a 2-1 is the negative from Emory. I voted AF. I thought this was a great debate, and I kind of, felt like I learned a lot. And there were a few things that really just kind of I kept coming back to as I shaped my decision. The first was I thought the AF controlled what the Trump administration wanted to do. And that was important to me because I concluded essentially that no matter what, his administration would kind of fight tooth and nail for no regulations. And I actually thought that the part of the Harvey card that they cited on like under enforcement and kind of let rubber stamp any state plans, even if they are, it's not like the CPP at all, really just kind of framed, what I thought in terms of how the CPP would go down. The second thing was, I thought you all, certainly won that litigation was inevitable, but had virtually no impact to that. And I think that for me, the cards that you all were missing were cards that said Trump will give up the fight. That like if things get too hard, he's just gonna get bored with it and be like, fine, basically what he did with healthcare today, And I think that, there's actually a card in your Freeman card that I think it's not really about Trump, but I think it would have gotten you close there, that talks about how the Bush administration and all of that gave up on fighting some Clinton-era regulations and trying to put those back in play. So that was a pretty important thing as well, that I just thought all of your kind of links got to upholding the CPP means rollback will be litigated, but I thought they won that litigation would be in Trump's favor and let them scale it back. And then lastly, I just thought that, on the endangerment finding piece, I didn't think Michigan State's evidence was great here. I thought it was just kind of, meh. But what I did think about, I didn't think there was much of an answer. That deference overall will strengthen that, and probably more relevant, and I think their evidence is pretty direct on this point, just that if Trump, if CPP is rolled back, that's what's going to happen. That's a big fight in courts, and again, deference net helps the administration undercut regulations absent an impact to litigation. Not big advantage, but enough. I just didn't really think there was, once I kind of concluded that way on the disad, it was, virtually, not relevant. And then I didn't vote on like should. I just kind of said no.
I can go. I was very, very close to voting half. I think that I guess let me explain why I vote for the advantage. I vote for the Russia dissent over yours. The first one I resulted is kind of the magnitude scenario. I think it's very unfortunate. I guess your global fracturing through the international system, I get that you're only extending that part of it. However, when you get to the card that talks about the pine card evidence, where it's talking about the nations, and it's like Indonesia, South Africa, a couple of Latin American countries. I guess I just, number one, I conclude that there's the risk of a U.S.-Russia war causing a terminal, causing the terminal impacts is easier to connect those dots than a scenario starting with those 5 countries, spreading up into the international system and fracturing it. And then, so additionally, I also think that there's an argument that Emory makes, not so well necessarily, but just kind of like partially it was just like countries won't necessarily perceive the tricks of the CPP that you're doing to justify their decisions to go to war or not. Like they're gonna be way more into economic self-interest in things. And to me, that does kind of frame the debate in a little bit in that I just think that their scenario is more probable. And so now I go to the Russian LNG dissent to evaluate your two claims. And so I guess, whereas Jonathan Paul decided that there was no impact to kind of the rollback arguments, the argument that the impact I gave it was kind of a time frame deal, which is that even if the CPP is going to get rolled back and or when it gets overturned, Trump is going to pass new policies, like there's going to be some time for that to happen. And so does the Russia war, can that possibly mitigate in the short term? And so I do think the sum total of their cards are like, well, people will challenge Trump in court, so that's going to take some time. Then even if Trump wins, he's got to come up with new rules, that's going to take some time. Like, to me, it just kind of pushes out whether that impact will happen. When you get to the levy card in the 2AR and you just say that the threshold is so low on the link, if you pushed out that the levy card said that we have to get our natural gas exports up by 2020 or so, I probably would have voted for you. Like,
where's the time frame argument in 2
well, no, I mean, I'm just, how do I evaluate these two?
With the arguments made in
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, so your rollback argument, I mean, is it, I guess if you're presuming that we pass plan, it immediately gets rolled back the exact same
They
moment.
never made that argument.
I mean, again, this is how I would evaluate the round, just in terms of weighing an advantage
That
versus
wasn't
scenario.
part of the fucking debate.
But I mean, so, okay, why doesn't the Russian impact happen immediately too, if I don't
The impact
give
is
you-
wholly, no one,
I
we
mean-
didn't contest impact for a reason, because we straight threatened the dissent, dude.
I get that. I think you still need to make a time frame argument to show that your scenario happens before their
absurd.
scenario.
That's ridiculous.
That's fair enough.
The debate. I think I agree with JP that the F controls what the Trump administration wants to do, but I think that the litigation arcs made in the 2NR are kind of not really responded to in the 2AR. And I grant them a little bit more of an open interpretation of this because the 1AR was pretty light on that. Even though the 2AR did have some responses, the 1AR was pretty short on this fact, which makes it difficult for me to extend that into the 2AR. For these restrictions to take place, I think that I do grant you a risk of the advantage, not a very high one, because there's a lot of instances of pull out without collapse that are probably mitigate the internal link a bit. I think the DA impact is probably pretty large and they're controlling the this debate. There isn't link defense in this debate either. All that you have on the LNG is rollback, which is insufficient. We don't answer the legal barriers debate. I'll probably give them a little more interpretation of that, which I already said. Too many legal barriers for Trump to roll back their Freeman, Harvey, and Riley evidence. I'll say that. Harvey is it would take a lot of time, new rule processes would be making, and checks and balances would apply to action Trump would take against the CCP, which probably answers the other argument, the 2AR, that Trump would cause worse regulations, which also really isn't in the 1AR. The re-highlighting of the Harvey evidence still doesn't answer legal duet.
You thought that wasn't in the 1AR?
The 1AR was pretty light. You got to the LNG date with 45, 30 seconds maybe.
Because they dropped the straight term.
They didn't drop the straight term.
Okay, so they say litigation. You don't think the 1AR answers litigation whatsoever?
I mean, I think it answers it a little bit, but not really sufficiently considering that they have 3 cards that are just litigation.
What's the
for a long
impact
time.
of litigation?
It's defense to your link term.
Okay.
And to me, it became a time frame. Yeah, man.
I didn't evaluate it as a time frame question, but I did think that litigation kind of means that it takes out the link term and that.
Wait, you think it just completely takes out the link term?
I mean, I think it mitigates it a little bit.
Did you get our arguments in the 1AR about litigation being an AF argument because the strong Chevron deference undermines the legal basis for those lawsuits, which is the endangerment finding of the 1AR?
Yeah, and then there are Harvey cards that, is it Harvey or Freeman? One of those answers the endangerment finding too, because it says that it wouldn't be, Freeman evidence says that the endangerment finding wouldn't be upheld. Their Freeman card says that.
No. What do you mean by that?
The Freeman card that they read in the 2NC, the 2NC is specific to the endangerment finding.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, that answers the endangerment argument in the
what way?
1AR.
Sorry, I just don't understand what is the connection between those things.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just a litigation arc. It's just saying that Trump wouldn't be able to actually say hey, we want to uphold or disregard the endangerment finding because there's no chance it would actually be upheld. It's the 5th paragraph of that part.
So what do you think about all the arguments that are we internally from that because Chevron deference makes that litigation fit?
No, I understand that. Like, I just think that you're behind on the rollback debate, and I don't think that there's like
But what are we behind on is what I don't understand.
the litigation arcs.
In what sense though?
What I just said, like the beginning of the RFD.
Okay, so you didn't think that the 1AR was sufficient on winning litigation equals neg arg, or at arg, because in we winter engagement.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, I think if the 1AR spent a little bit more time on this, and it would have changed my decision, but I think the 1AR is very light.
I'm just having trouble wrapping my head around the fact that, like the fact that there's zero impact to litigation. What do you find that impact to litigation would be?
It means that it would take a long time frame. Like,
Wait, so it's time frame now?
their cards
Oh,
kind
come
of have
on.
the interpretation.
It,
Like, granted, the 2NR should have made a time frame arc pretty badly, but I kind of give him that interpretation since he's in the 2NR, just like, give me a lot of leeway to the DA because the 1AR was like that's the top of the 2AR, 2NR.
okay, so by granting leeway, you're just like, boom, litigation auto takes out everything you've said.
No, I'm like, boom, litigation means that it's probably a long time frame for Trump to kill the CPP, which means that in the short term, exports would decrease, which triggers the link to
Okay, but that wasn't a fucking argument made.
That's like the entire DA.
It's not the entire DA. Where on your flow do you have time frame in the 2NR?
I just told you the 2NR should have made a time frame arc, but I kind of let that interpretation
So
happen
it's
because there are cards in
completely
that arc.
irrational.
No, those
Well, no, I
cards.
have it as the internal warrants on the takeout cards. Like,
Like
when they
those
say, like,
warrants.
I mean, I don't know how you read it, but when I say Trump tries to overturn it, it's gonna go to court, there's gonna be injunctions filed, I mean, that shit takes weeks and months.
Okay, but that's not at all setting the 2NR. And there's no warrant like, oh, Russia is lash out coming now. That outweighs.
2NR says leeway on cards. Cards say litigation. Litigation equals long time frame. Long time frame equals exports happen in the exports
Okay,
decrease in
no,
the short.
where does the 2NR say that? Nowhere.
Go back to my close, but it's on here. Somewhere in the 2NR, he said allow leeway in the 2NR because 1AR is late. I don't remember where it was in the 2NR, but it was there.
Alright, thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah.
I sort of think that the one turns of the LSU is almost a double turn, because the warming turns are plan these less warming regulations.
Your warming turns in
Yes.
the LNG to say, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I was thinking that.
I sort of I tried to navigate this in the 1R by only reading that methane scenario, but do you think a better way to read this or just sort of abandon that?
Yeah, I didn't quite, I wasn't sure, I definitely had that thought when I thought you were maybe saying you were gonna say they lead to methane reg rollback, which doesn't link to gas, because
Yeah,
then,
that would be the
but then
only
it
thing.
seemed like, but I don't know why only methane as opposed to a bunch of other stuff, right?
Yeah, thank you. That's fair.
But I also not totally sure how they could have executed that.
Yeah, I don't think there's uniqueness to the term